Recently, in an appearance on MSNBC, longtime Democratic strategist James Carville was talking with the Democratic Party and said, "We're losing our minds," in reference to the leftward lurch of their party, fringe issues being campaigned on that Americans don't care about, and the fact that in the Iowa caucus, they couldn't even count votes. Yet in an interview, he then goes on to blame Russia for propping up Jill Stein and the New York Times for writing about Hillary's emails. And I can only conclude one thing. The Democratic Party is in complete freefall, and it is breaking apart before our eyes. Right now, Bernie Sanders leads the popular vote in Iowa, but is losing the delegate count to Buttigieg. Some people are calling for a recount, Bernie saying no. Everything is in complete chaos. Yet on the Republican side, Trump just won the impeachment trial. Trump just won his emoluments case. He just keeps winning. I don't know how else to frame this because I'm looking back at my YouTube channel, seeing all of these stories about Democrats, and I'm getting frustrated. How many times am I going to talk about the Democrats panicking or freaking out? But the reality is they just keep losing. They're losing their own election because they can't count votes. But they're also facing a major civil war inside their own party with the far left like Bernie Sanders, the establishment candidates like Biden and Buttigieg, and they have no idea how to deal with it. Now the progressive sector of the party is literally accusing the Democrats of cheating overtly, full-on conspiracy theory. I don't know what to tell you, man, but I'm sitting back watching everything go down the drain. And when I saw this story from James Carville, I'm sitting here thinking, am I really going to make another video about Democrats losing their minds? I don't know what else to tell you. What's the other news of the day? I mean, this is it. Trump just won the emoluments case. That's the other big news, but that's part of this. That's a part of the fact the Democratic Party can't do anything right now. James Carville even mentions Trump's approval rating is basically higher than it's ever been. What else is left? They are fractured down the middle. They are fighting each other, accusing each other. They can't count votes. They are campaigning in foreign countries. It is over. I do not see how they recover from this. Now, keep in mind, if you're a Trump supporter, hubris is what cost Hillary the election in 2016. And maybe this chaos is just a smokescreen to lull Trump and his supporters into a false sense of security so they swoop down at the last minute and win that 2020 election. I just really don't think so, man. Come on. It is complete chaos. I don't know how else to cover these stories without pointing out that it is the Democrats in complete freakout. Trump's holding up the newspaper saying Trump acquitted, laughing the whole time. What are we supposed to talk about other than this? I just don't know. Well, let's get started, and I will read you the story where James Carville is basically freaking out, the worst I have ever seen a Democrat freak out over the panic when they realize voters aren't turning out for them. Seriously, the Democrats are not seeing a good voter turnout. It is over. Man, I don't know what to tell you. Before we get started, head over to timcast.com/donate if you'd like to support my work. But the best thing you can do is share this video. Perhaps many people just don't want to accept it, but at this point, I don't care. As I just mentioned earlier, I'm looking back at the past several videos, and this month it is increasingly just about the Democrats failing and freaking out. And I kind of felt like maybe I'm going too hard on bringing these stories up or talking about them panicking, but they literally are. This is panic, okay? Look at this story. We are losing our minds. I'm cutting out the light. Believe it or not, YouTube considers saying the D word. I'm sorry, I can't say it. They consider that a slur or a swear. James Carville unloads on the Democratic Party. What else do you call it when a longtime strategist is freaking out that they're going to lose, they can't beat Trump, and they're all going nuts, other than panicking? I don't know what to tell you. Check this out. James Carville is scared to death of the November 2020 election. In a rant on MSNBC that went viral on Tuesday evening, the longtime Democratic strategist vented his concerns at the party's prospects for beating Donald Trump, taking particular aim at the party's leftward lurch. Quote, 18% of the population controls 52 Senate seats, Carville said. We've got to be a majoritarian party. The urban core is not going to get it done. What we need is power. Do you understand? That's what this is about. His diatribe took place against the backdrop of an Iowa caucus that had fallen into chaos and amid a rancorous ongoing debate among Democrats over the party's direction. He took particular aim at Bernie Sanders, whom he fears could lead the party to defeat in November. Carville's lament distills a concern among the Democratic Party's establishment. Will ideological purity and playing to the base cost the Democrats victory in November? For Carville, at least, We have one moral imperative, and that's to beat Donald Trump. That his comments went viral speaks to the sense of urgency among Democrats, even as it only fuels the debate over the direction of the party. I spoke with Carville this week by phone. We discussed I'm quoting Sean Illing of Vox right here, who says he spoke with Carville and discussed where he thinks the Democrats went wrong, what it will take to build a majoritarian party in this climate, and why he doesn't have a lot of confidence in the current field of candidates. A lightly edited transcript of the conversation as follows. Carville is asked, why are you scared? And he said, look, the turnout in the Iowa caucus was below what we expected, what we wanted. Trump's approval rating is probably as high as it's been. This is very bad. And now it appears the party can't even count votes. What am I supposed to think? I'll just say it this way. The fate of the world depends on the Democrats getting their S together and winning in November. We have to beat Trump. And so far, I don't like what I see. And a lot of people I talk to feel the same way. Yes, James Carville is right. I have seen the exact same thing, but I will tell you this. It is only among those Democratic voters who are plugged in and paying attention where the real freakout occurs. What I end up seeing from regular Americans is no concern at all. Nobody, no regular person I've met is actually concerned the world is going to end because of Donald Trump or that there's a moral imperative to beat him. They don't know what's going on. They don't even know who Kavanaugh is. They're working. And when I ask them, what do they say? Hey, man, I made a ton of money last year. Things are going great. Don't rock the boat. So who are they going to vote for? Listen, even among many independents who are paying attention, they're looking at Trump as kind of a jerk, but one who makes the country's economy function well, especially for them. And they look at the Democrats and what do they see? Civil war. The progressives and the moderates are feuding nonstop, accusing each other of all this, whatever. Bernie Sanders is not a Democrat, says James Carville. He says, whatever you want to think of him, he's not a Democrat. He's an ideologue. That's actually a quote from this interview. The moderates appear to be cheating. Look, they're cheating in the sense that they're changing the rules for Mike Bloomberg, desperate to get someone who can beat Trump. But they're actually being accused by Bernie Sanders supporters of manipulating vote counts. I kid you not. Now, I'll tell you this. I recently got a text message from the Yang campaign asking me to help, help in any way, right? I don't want to be too specific, but they do the campaign email saying, can we count on you for Yang? I donated to Andrew Yang because I really do like the guy. But at this point, I'm out. I am completely out. I will not do campaigning. I will not vote in the primary. I am so over it. There is nothing but chaos and insanity in the Democratic Party, and I don't see any reason in participating in their corrupt and broken system. Worst case scenario, they really are rigging the primary to get Buttigieg the win. Best case scenario, they are so incompetent, they can't count votes. Why would I give them a vote of confidence by participating? I won't do it. Well, James Carville is freaking out, but he brings up 2018 and he says, in 2018, we did great. We talked about everything we needed to talk about and we won. And now it's like we're losing our minds. Someone's got to step their game up here. He said in 2018, Democrats recruited really strong candidates, really qualified candidates. And the party said, this is what we're going to talk about, and we're going to keep talking about it. And you know what happened? We effing won. We didn't get distracted. We didn't get deflected. Now, he goes on to say, we have candidates on the debate stage talking about open borders and decriminalizing illegal immigration. They're talking about doing away with nuclear energy and fracking. You've got Bernie Sanders talking about letting criminals vote from jail cells. It doesn't matter what you think about any of that or if there are good arguments. Talking about that is not how you win a national election. It's not how you become a majoritarian party. For F's sake, we've got Trump at Davos talking about cutting Medicare, and no one in the party has the sense to plaster a picture of him up there sucking on the global elites, talking about cutting taxes for them while he's talking about cutting Medicare back home. Jesus, this is so obvious and so easy, and I don't see any of the candidates taking advantage of it. The Republicans have destroyed their party and turned it into a personality cult. But if anyone thinks they can't win, they're out of their minds. Now, Carville is freaking out, but he's right. He's right about one thing. Trump has done a lot of things they could easily campaign on. Trump talking about cutting Medicare, sure, whatever. The Democrats could easily focus on message, What will they deliver? But they don't. Nancy Pelosi gets up and just gets all angry and tears up Donald Trump's speech because she couldn't think for 2 seconds about what they need to do to convince Americans they're the right choice. All they've been saying since they got elected in 2016 is orange man bad. I'm sorry, that's not a campaign position. That is not a policy position. Complaining about Trump does not win. And why won't you learn? No matter how many times you've been throwing mud, you've thrown mud at Trump, it doesn't stick. Why don't you try and change the conversation and talk to the American people? But they've fallen into his trap. Jon Stewart mentioned, famous Daily Show Jon Stewart, that journalists take Trump's attacks personally, and so do these Democrats. And because of this, they are easily being blinded by Trump. And you know what? Dare I say, maybe it's all just part of Trump's character and he's lucky. But it really does feel like Trump knows what he's doing. I think back to when he changed the rules on asylum in the southern border. And he immediately tweeted about the squad going back to where they've come from or wherever, and then bringing back those better ways of doing things. Nobody talked about the asylum changes. I mean, some people did, but Trump distracted them easily. And right now it seems James Carville is being whipped up into a frenzy because, whether on purpose or not, Donald Trump has kept them off message, and it's so bad for the Democrats, they are freaking out. Now listen, there's a brief update in the Donald Trump is winning everything line. Appeals court tosses Democrats' emoluments lawsuit against Trump. Everything they've tried has failed. He's still the president. They couldn't impeach him. They couldn't accuse him of emoluments. Every step of the way, it's just been complete and total failure. But it's not just about what Trump is doing and whether or not he's winning. It's about the fact that the party is fighting itself. From the Daily Mail, Pete Buttigieg keeps narrow lead in the Iowa caucus as state finally finishes its count with Bernie Sanders declaring he's had enough and will not call for recanvassing after the fiasco. This gives Pete Buttigieg a 0.1% lead. Buttigieg has won on the delegate count, but not the popular vote count. But here's where it gets interesting. Scott Santens is a precinct captain. So he says he's a verified Twitter user. He's a Yang supporter. And he tweeted, with 100% of precincts reporting, I can faithfully say the Iowa results are BS. As a precinct captain in DM06, I know for a fact the numbers reported for that district for every candidate who got more than 0 votes are wrong. 185 people caucused there. They say only 92 did. He goes on. I'm not the only precinct captain to know for a fact that the official numbers are wrong. Here's another. Chet Gaines said, please retweet and share, Yang Gang. Our precinct is reporting inaccurate numbers. Andrew Yang had 15 supporters on the first expression and 0 are being reported. We deserve to be heard. He said, Muscatine 09 is also inaccurate, but the tweet has since been removed. A local news crew was filming in my Des Moines precinct. A local news crew was in my Des Moines precinct filming the entire thing. I'll try and track down what station it was tomorrow, but you can see the cameraman in this photo I took. You can also easily count far more people than what the official count says were in the room. He says Muscatine 04 is also inaccurate. We now have 4 different precincts on Twitter, and this is a verified user saying the numbers aren't correct. Now, I don't know if they're correct or not. I really don't. It could be that these 4 people are, Andrew Yang supporters are just saying this because they refuse to back down, but I really doubt it. I think they're telling you the truth. I think the whole fiasco has proven the Democrats can't count votes. Now, whether or not they're purposefully cheating to give Buttigieg the win, I don't know. But I got to tell you, if 4 precincts are wrong, then the state delegate equivalent count must be wrong too. And these people are telling us. So what do? We recount, I suppose. Well, Bernie Sanders says he won't call for one. The Democratic establishment has called for one. We'll see what happens. But this says to me, at best, that the best case scenario for us is that the Democrats are just so incompetent and unable to look at a piece of paper and say, here's the number, that they're going to put the wrong guy and they're going to nominate the wrong guy. The worst case scenario, they're actually cheating. But I guess for everyone else outside of the Democratic Party or anyone who might want to vote Democrat, because I've been a big fan of Yang, well, what's really happening is the Democrats just don't really exist anymore. It's something I've been saying over the past few weeks. I just don't see how you can claim there is a Democratic Party when James Carville is shrieking and freaking out over Bernie Sanders, but Bernie Sanders is nearly tied with Buttigieg. The split is right down the middle. So when you ask someone about what a Democrat is, what do they answer with? And the answer is so widely chaotic, I can't see there being a party. And this brings me to Mr. Kyle Kulinski, progressive commentator. He says, quote, "I love the mush brains who think you could explain away 95% of the, quote, mistakes going against Bernie with simple incompetence. Are you not even mildly curious about Pete's campaign funding the app and former Hillary staffers building it and them not even running through basic tests? We learned that in 2016, the DNC was operating as an arm of the Hillary Clinton campaign while they pretended to be neutral. They had fundraising agreements. Hillary got debate questions beforehand. Now, 4 years later, if someone looks fishy, you have to shut off your brain. Preposterous." There it is. Kyle Kulinski is straight up saying that they are cheating, and it's obvious. Now, I'll tell you this. They're definitely cheating with Bloomberg. We know that they kept Yang out of a debate, Tulsi out of a debate, Cory Booker out of a debate, who all called for rule changes. And Yang didn't even say, give me special treatment. He just said, please do more polls because he thought he would do better in the polls. They wouldn't do it. Bloomberg comes around and dumps $100 plus $200 million into the campaign season. And sure enough, the rules change that allow him to enter the debate. You need to understand what James Carville's outrage really means. He's a high-profile Democratic strategist. If he is going on TV and in full-on panic mode, freaking out, saying we're losing our minds, what do you think the powers that be in the Democratic Party are doing? Do you think they're sitting on their hands? No, they're right next to James Carville, shrieking and freaking out. This is the end. Listen, every single poll was wrong. Check out this data from 538, and you see something truly, truly fascinating. Up until the actual Iowa caucus, Biden was the projected nominee. Why? Because the polls claimed it. But every single poll in Iowa was wrong. I mean, they were putting Bernie in first place. Buttigieg, I think, was in like third or fourth. And then he ended up getting first place. So the polls were dead wrong. What can we expect moving forward? All of the polls are wrong, and we have no idea what's going to happen. Check this out. They say Biden was in the lead, and then as soon as the Iowa caucus happens, Biden drops down to third. And they say it's a 1 in 5 chance Biden wins the nomination. That to me is absurd. And they're basing it off of mostly the polls that we already know are incorrect. Bernie Sanders immediately jumps to first with a 1 in 46%, a 1 in 2, a 46% chance of being the nominee. Interestingly, the second 1 in 4 is no one being the nominee. But all the polls are completely incorrect. How is Buttigieg on top? I honestly have no idea. But I show you this as well because Buttigieg was not projected to be doing better than many other people. And now all of a sudden, he's first place in Iowa, which is why many of the progressives think the Democratic establishment is cheating. I think when you look at the sheer outrage of James Carville, who is Democratic establishment, you see just that. Look, when Bernie was running in 2016, they probably were not panicked. They were probably just like, yeah, well, we'll deal with him, right? Well, now Bernie's really winning. He's the projected nominee as of the Iowa caucuses. Do you think they're panicking now? Do you think they'll pull out all the stops and play as dirty as they possibly can? Look, we know they're cheating in the debates. I'd be willing to bet they go further. I'm not going to take that leap and claim they're manipulating the vote counts. I'm not saying Kyle Kulinski isn't necessarily saying that either, but I think Kyle's made his position clear that as a Bernie supporter, I believe he is, and a progressive, they're absolutely going above and beyond in terms of cheating. Well, Bernie asked about why his campaign would win while Jeremy Corbyn's had lost. He answers by saying Trump can only be beaten with the largest voter turnout in the history of the country, and notes his ability to reach young and non-traditional voters. Someone then responded, isn't that the same thing Corbyn said? Guess what? The Washington Post writes, the most important Iowa result is in. Democrats should worry. Voter turnout was bad. As James Carville said, it was really bad. Look, I looked through my past several YouTube videos, and I'm just seeing all these stories like Democrats panic, Democrats are quitting and vowing not to vote ever again. The Democrat voter turnout flops. Democrats are panicking as voters vow to vote Trump in the Never Bernie movement. Democrats are openly cheating. And I'm thinking to myself, man, I'm sick and tired of opening every video with what the Democrats are doing. But that's really the big news. Is it big news every single day to say that Donald Trump has won again? I don't know what you want me to say, man. A lot of people want me to just rag on the president and the Republicans for the sake of doing so, but they really are winning. I mean, impeachment dragged Trump and he was really frustrated by it. They voted no witnesses, Republican victory. They vote to acquit, Republican victory. Emoluments case dropped today, Republican victory. Democrat infighting chaos civil war, no Democrat victory. And right now, the big story is what's happening with the Democratic primary. The Republican Party is rallying around Trump. They love the guy. Joe Walsh, you know that guy who was going to run against Trump in the primary? He drops out because nobody cared. They booed and jeered him when he was like, listen, if you want 4 more years of Trump, and they cut him off and all start cheering and yelling. His response, it must be a cult. Let me tell you something. I think it's y'all who are in the cult, okay? Because I am not a fan of Trump, but I can certainly recognize why James Carville is right and why the Bernie supporters are right to question the results. I was all on board to vote for Andrew Yang, and now I'm not going to participate. And I am not somebody who relentlessly defends the president's behavior. I routinely criticize his behavior. I do it all the time, especially his foreign policy. That's like the main thing I've complained about. It's why I've been a big fan of Tulsi. And I want to see someone like Andrew Yang, a moderately progressive individual, left-leaning. It doesn't exist. A sane person who's being honest is going to point out the chaos. They want me to lie and pretend like it's worse for Trump when it just isn't and it hasn't been. I'm sorry, Democrats. Your party is completely collapsing. I don't even know who I'm speaking to when I say Democrats at this point, because I can also say congratulations, Democrats. You're breaking through and shutting down the establishment. The word is meaningless. Establishment. You are losing. You will lose. Nancy Pelosi, when she shredded up that Trump speech, it was basically her shredding up any chance they had to actually come back, because you showed regular Americans you're nuts. You're just as bad as you claim Trump is when it comes to his attitude. And I'm not interested in that. At least the crazy guy who you think is bad, the orange man, he's got a good economy behind him. So what do you think's going to happen? Do you think people like me would go and vote for Bernie? I'm not going to do it. Andrew Yang's base is 42% Yang or bust. They won't support any other candidate if the candidate is not Andrew Yang. Admittedly, Yang's voter base is not the biggest, but of his base, 42% in a poll that was released, I believe it was ABC News, said no. If Yang is not the candidate, we won't vote. I agree with that. But I'll tell you this. Based on what we saw in Iowa, why would I even participate? So James Carville can freak out all day and night, but I think maybe it's time you let go. I think maybe it's time you just let go and let the raging whitewater rapids carry you downstream and see where you end up. Because fighting and struggling to swim upstream in a Category 5 rapid is never going to work. You're just slowly drifting and spinning out of control. Change your strategy, find something else. Now, Carville made a really good point. The Democrats could have absolutely embraced any talking point about policy and gone with it. You know, Americans really care about their health care. They're not. They are obsessed with the orange man. And they're obsessed with stopping Bernie Sanders facing a fight on 2 fronts they cannot win. I think we're seeing the complete breakdown of the Democratic Party. I know maybe I've said it before. I've said a million times they're panicking, but this is it. It just keeps getting worse every single day. I don't know where we'll be in a week. Maybe next week, everything will be back together and Bernie will win and they'll unify around Bernie. Maybe that's what needs to happen. Maybe the Democrats, the establishment, should back off, let Bernie take his rightful place, assuming the people want him, and then let the party rally around Bernie. Maybe the real result of that will be a complete fracturing and the moderate wing of the Democrats just joins the Republicans. I honestly don't know, but it's time to just stop. The game you're playing isn't working and it just keeps getting worse. And that's why I've slowly been like, I'm out. Man, I got real excited for Yang. I still am. I still really like the guy, but I'll tell you this. I feel like if I participate in the Democratic primary process, I'm giving them a vote of confidence. I'm telling them I believe this matters. I don't believe it matters. I think you're all nuts. Now, I'm not going to vote for Trump. I'm just going to sit back and kick my feet up and say, listen, man, it's time to chill. Trump has won. I don't know what you want to do, but I'm done kicking my feet and screaming at the Democrats to try and course correct because they don't care. So I'm going to ride this rapid down and see where it takes me. And I'm just going to chill. No point in getting stressed anymore, right? I don't know what this means for Democrats, but I do think it's kind of funny that in 2016, they said the same thing about Trump, that the Republican Party was destroyed, and Carville's claiming it's a cult now. I really don't think so. I know a lot of reluctant Trump supporters. It is absolutely not a cult. I know a lot of people who voted for Trump and don't want to. I know a lot of people who voted for Trump in 2016 who are now Yang Gang and they say Yang is a better alternative. But guess what? They wouldn't do it. They wouldn't try and approach the people in the middle who voted for Trump. So in the end, you get what you get. Democrats should worry, says the Washington Post. You're right. They should. Are they? Oh, you better believe it. They are freaking out, and it's not going to help. So I don't know what else to say. I'll leave it there. Stick around. Next segment's coming up at 6 p.m. youtube.com/TimCastNews, and I will see you all then.